We get a lot of questions from people asking for help deciding between two specific pairs of shoes, and now that we've cut open 300 plus pairs of shoes, we can finally start answering some of those questions and give you guys the actual material science information to make a solid decision, not based off of hype, not based off of hearsay, but actual facts, so that you know where you're spending your hard-earned money. And don't you just, at the end of the day, want to know which one of these two heavyweight Yeezys is the best so you can flex a little material science on your friends? That's what we're gonna find out by putting these head to head to see who reigns supreme. I know some of you are thinking, man, that sure is a mighty fine looking jacket. And you're right, it is a mighty fine jacket because this is Nomadic's new jacket that they just launched today on Kickstarter, which is their 13th Kickstarter, where they've raised millions of dollars by making some of the highest quality bags, including the camera bag that I use anytime I travel. So when I saw this jacket, I practically begged them to do the sponsor because these types of ads are so much easier to do. They resonate with you guys. You end up buying the stuff, makes it easier for them to commit more money, but also I just really wanted this jacket and have early access to it. And basically what they did with this jacket is take a regular jacket and identify all the pain points and start from the ground zero and attempt to solve every single one of those problems by making it a middleweight jacket that uses smarter fabrics so that it's breathable where you need to be with like these little vent holes, and warm where it needs to be with just a little bit of insulation to keep you warm without all the bulk and all the weight of even just a regular like canvas jacket. And that also makes the jacket a lot lighter, which makes it great for everyday use, but especially for traveling. And it's so freaking soft, you could literally use this as a pillow. If only the whole jacket folded into the front left pocket so that the fleece lined pocket works as a travel pillow. It does. And it also has this really nice little, they call it a dashboard pocket, which I thought was kind of an interesting name. You don't have to dig when you're sitting down. It's just a really convenient spot for a pocket. So it's a really well thought out design, and I love smart product design. I started my business basically with Kickstarter, with the two biggest products I've ever made on Kickstarter. So I love supporting brands that are taking risks on unique products and just pitching them to the world and hope that they work. So thanks again to Nomadic for sponsoring this video. Check them out below. And on the Kickstarter, you can get it at 20% off, making it $150, and it launched today, May 2nd, so check it out below. Now let's go over the contenders. First, in the Beluga reflective corner, we have the Yeezy 350 V2, first released in 2015 as part of Kanye's Yeezy Season 1 fashion line, and almost immediately took over the entire sneaker world. Everyone was wearing them, whether they're fake or not, everyone was wearing them, and scarcity and hype dominated as these became some of the most popular shoes you could buy and really put Yeezy on the map for the future trends and releases that they were known for, aside from the anti-Semitism. And then in 2016 is when the V2 was released, and they've just been really popular ever since. And they continued to re-release these over and over until recently. And if you want more information on that whole thing, go watch the slide video, we cover it pretty extensively. Next, in the Wave Runner corner, we have the Yeezy 700 that was released in 2017 as a new model that contrasted the very slim and sleek look of the 350. And the 700 was met with initial criticism for its chunky, dad-like look before its release, but as soon as it was released, celebrities started wearing them, influencers started wearing them, popularity soared, and the whole dad shoe era wasn't necessarily kicked off by this, but it definitely got a shot of steroids when the shoe was released. And once again, they've become a staple ever since with different versions and re-releases. So these two shoes are arguably the two most recognizable Yeezy models. So first, which one of these shoes holds their value best? The 350 V2 retailed for $240, and at the height of its popularity, went up to about $369, versus the 700 retailed for $300 and soared all the way up to $867 at its peak. So investment-wise, probably the 700 is a better investment. But which one of these shoes is more popular? If we go to the Google Trend data, which is based off of search traffic, you can see a massive spike for the 350 when it was initially released, which kind of tells the story of why it was so popular and why it became such a huge character almost in the zeitgeist of the sneakerhead world. And even now in more recent years, you can still see the 350 is slightly more popular than the 700s. So just off the Google Trends data, it's pretty easy to point to the 350 is a more consistent and more popular shoe over an extended period of time. So more value, more popular. So now let's actually get into the material science of these, starting with the uppers. Well, the 350 is a prime knit upper, which is Adidas's trademark for the way they make their knit uppers. And that allows this silhouette to be really slim and flexible and breathable, but it's not gonna be nearly as durable of a shoe as even a regular pair of sneakers because it's just like wearing a really thick sock with a nice squishy sole on the bottom, versus the 700s has mesh and leather panels, giving it a lot more of a chunky dad-like look, and it's built in a more traditional sneaker way. But it's not quite as flexible, not quite as slim, and not nearly as breathable as the 350s. But the lining is where you really start to see some of the differences, because the 350 has that, it's not even necessarily a lining, it's more of like a reinforced panel on the inside that's really thin, just to give the shoe a little bit more structure, and so you don't get like high wear spots at your toes, and it doesn't look like you're just wearing a sock. Once again, breathable, more flexible, slimmer, versus the 700 is a lot more of a traditional sneaker with a real lining that's gonna absorb your sweat. It's gonna be a little bit more comfortable because it's gonna give you squish around your toes, but it is bulkier and puffier on foot. And so we did the breathability test, and the 350 is clearly significantly more breathable than the 700. Mostly because it's just a knit upper compared to a real sneaker upper. And if we look at the insoles, there's actually a surprising amount of difference between these two as well, because the 350s is just a really cheap insole. There's really nothing about this that's even worth note, versus the Ortholite insole in the Yeezy 700. It's actually a pretty decent insole. It surprised me that there was such a big difference between the two. And performance-wise, we wanted to see if there's actually a difference that we can try to glean some information from. So we did the ball drop test on the insoles, and the 350s bounced up 1.5 inches versus the 700 bounced up 4.5 inches. So quite a bit of difference just between the insoles in these shoes. That's a significant amount of difference. I did not expect to see that, if I'm being honest. And then if we look at the midsoles, which is one of the most important aspects of these shoes and what people tout as the most comfortable foam in the world, it's squishy, supportive, responsive, and if you have no idea what I'm talking about with boost foam as that loud car goes down the road, go check out the Yeezy 350 video where we go really in depth. It's a really interesting foam, little cells, capsules, it's cool. So which one has more boost foam? The 350 has nearly twice as much boost foam as the 700s. And the 700, it's not that it doesn't have a lot of boost foam, because it still is like almost an inch thick of boost foam, but it's just not quite as much as the 300s, and it doesn't run the full length of the shoe. So to see if there was a performance difference between the two, we did the ball drop test. The 350s bounced up 12.5 inches versus the 700s bounced up 12 inches. So pretty much the same results. So there must be a certain depth that boost foam actually works, and then it starts not compressing at a certain thickness, if you know what I mean. But I still think if you're going for squish underfoot, more foam is gonna be more squishy, which doesn't always mean more comfortable, which brings us to the outsole, because this is where one of the biggest differences, I said that like 3 times, right? Like one of the biggest differences, another difference is the 350s are just a single skin of rubber that's kind of a 2-piece cup sole encapsulated deal, versus the 700 is a lot more like a traditional sneaker with the herringbone and a harder rubber at 75 short A. And it is technically a dual density outsole, I guess, because you have this non-boost foam rubber right underneath of that herringbone black rubber. And so the 700 is gonna be a little bit more stable underfoot, it's gonna be more grippy, it's gonna be more practical, versus the 700s is it's just not gonna have that, but it will have a little bit more squish. And to attempt to test to see if that's true, we did the bar drop test, which is a lot heavier than the ball drop to give more real world impact data. The 350 bounced up 9.8 inches and the 700s only bounced up 7 inches. So about 40% more rebound and bounce from the 350s. So very similar results to the ball drop test. So I think that's enough data to say the 350s are gonna be a little bit more squishy, a little bit more rebound, and a little bit more comfort underfoot for short periods of time, but I think the 700 excels because it's more of a stable platform. It's more of a traditional sneaker. So if you need that stability, the 700 is probably gonna be a little bit more comfortable. And it's hard to say which one's more durable because we did the puncture test and it's right around the same amount of punctureness. So now that we've looked at every single piece of this and all the materials and tested them, what's the results? Well, it seems like they're exactly what they are on the surface. The 350 is form over function, prioritizing the look above everything else. It's a big chunk of boost foam with some rubber around it and a knit upper. It's that primal, it's that very, it echoes that first primitive shoe that ever was discovered. It's a unique shoe that has that iconic look and the fashion aspect of it, and it is the original Yeezy. Versus the 700 is just a dad shoe through and through. It's gonna absorb your sweat. It's gonna be a little bit more structured underneath your foot, and it's prioritized function over form to some degree. It's still clearly a commentary on the dad shoe. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, go watch this video because we go a lot more into it. And overall, which of these shoes is best if you just compile all that data, the objective, the subjective, which is the better shoe? I still lean towards the 700. I think it's just better through and through. It's not gonna have as much squish, but I think the 700 is a better shoe. So let me know what you guys think. If you like this style of video, I like doing this because it allows us to really dig into the details in a way that we almost can't in the main videos because we need something to compare it to really pull out some of the details. So support this if you like it because we ordered all these Yeezys before all the controversy and YouTube does not like this Yeezy content. So we need as much support as you guys can give us so that we can at least make your money back. So thank you guys. See ya.